Okay, so we're back at it at the 3000 GT with this gobbledygook of wiring. So where we last left off was the yellow and black wire that branched off to a ton of different places. So we're going to start isolating that today. Okay, so the furthest yellow goes, black and yellow goes to pin 51 here, which is the starter relay signal. So same deal, we're just going to snip that and then we're going to pull it through. So we may or may not need to retain that if we can't get the starter actuate. The next longest branch of the black-yellow wire goes to the main relay. We know that we're not using that anymore, so we're just simply going to snip that out as well, and then pull it through. So that leaves us with the remaining yellow and black wires go to the last two mystery connectors. So now, just like I said last time, what we'll have to do is we'll start tracing these connectors all the way out to see where they go. We're going to start off with this one because it's just the easier of the two. So looking at the two mystery connectors, they have this black and white feed. I'm going to go ahead and snip that off. It falls down and then it ends up in the main relay. Okay, so now that we cut the black and white wire, that we're joining the two mystery connectors together, we're going to go ahead and start hunting these down. So this is the black blue wire coming off the mystery connector, and it branches into three different places. One is going into this thing, which looks like a ground tab potentially, and then we've got two wires chasing out into the engine bay, so we'll follow those two down. Okay, so the blue-black ended up going into these connectors here. I'm assuming that this is like maybe starter wire. Again, don't quote me on that because I don't really know. More importantly, this blue-black wire chases all the way down to the main relay. So we'll go ahead and we'll cut that loose. So the final wire on this one is the yellow-red. It goes into three places. One going this way into the ECU and the other going to the engine bay, and we'll trace that down now. So the yellow-red actually goes to pin 67, which ends up being 5-volt supply for the TPS. So there's a good chance when we follow this wire through, it's going to obviously hit the TPS. So we'll cut it loose from the ECU connector here, and then we'll follow it up down that way. It went to the TPS, so we're just going to snip it, pull it through. We're probably going to shorten this one when all said and done, just because we're not going to be using it. So going through the forbidden spaghetti here, I found this plug. I'm not sure what this plug is, but what I do know is that it is a black-red wire, and it runs to one of the ECU connectors that I've misplaced somewhere. Okay, so here is the black-red wire that goes to that weird connector. Okay, so it goes to pin 25. Pin 25 is the 12-volt supply from the main relay. So again, we're not using it, so we're snipping that out. Okay, so that's another mystery connector out. This one's the weird one though, because it looks like it goes to, like, I'm assuming like a neutral switch, and it had the 5-volt for the TPS. So not really sure what that's all about, but we will leave that one alone. We'll plug it in later once we figure out the rest of it. So anyways, now we are down to what looks like to be this last one right here. Nope, totally wrong. So we have this other mystery connector here. I'm probably going to attack this one first because this one actually looks like it goes to all ECU wiring, and I'm gonna just take a wild guess, but I'm assuming that this is going to be for like the actual gauge cluster, RPM, speed, and all that other stuff. Just a wild guess, not 100%, but we'll attack this one first. Okay, so on this short connector right there, so this goes to 103 and 111 respectively, and those two are for turbo boost meter and muffler mode changeover switch. So factory boost gauge, and there was a button to open exhaust valves on this car. This car has an aftermarket exhaust, so that's not going to do anything, but we're going to snip it anyways just so we have wire. This goes to red or green with a red stripe, and that goes to the check engine light. We'll go ahead and we'll snip that out as well. Okay, so here is pin, this yellow white that goes to pin 66, which is the speed sensor output. We will cut that out. If we get lucky, we can retain the speed sensor harness, and then this will plug into the fuel tech, or well, it'll wire into the fuel tech, excuse me. So we'll make note of that. And then this final wire, which looks to be straight yellow, is actually going into the engine bay. So we'll trace it down, and I'm going to take a wild guess that it goes to the speed sensor connector. Yep, here it is to the speed sensor. So we'll go ahead and we'll cut that out and pull it through. So there is one final yellow-green wire before we can free ourselves. It goes into this connector, and here's one of those weird connectors that I just keep seeing. I'm gonna cut it off because I got to pull it through the sheathing, and then I'll tie it, literally just tie it, that way I know where it needs to go. Okay, now it's the final connector. So we've got all the branches for the black yellow and the black white here onto this harness. The yellow black I'm probably just going to cut off right quick and then leave it aside. I guess it's not in the way, so I can leave it for now. White black, though, there's two of them that are branching out into the main harness. Virtually everything else on this connector goes out to the main harness, so we'll go and figure out what they are and then document it. Okay, the two black wires, and there's two black and white wires and they both run into this. I believe this is the PTU connector here, and then I think this is an O2 sensor connector here, I think. Either way, we're gonna pull it through. So this white wire coming off the final connector here goes to pin 101, which is engine ignition signal. So that's RPM signal. Okay, so the white wire splits down there, as you can see, to the ECU, and then it goes here, which goes into the PTU harness. So go ahead and we'll cut that out, and then we've got a couple more wires to go through and we'll be done. The white black over here goes to the speed sensor connector, so I'm assuming that's the ground for it. So the thing about speed sensors is that they're normally 3-wire sensor, house sensors, so they like are chassis, ground, 12 volt, and signal, by the way. So green, white, and green, red were already cut, so I'll have to go back and review the videos to see where I cut them from. So they definitely were already cut, and that leaves us these 3 wires here. So the last 2 wires actually go to the same connector. It's a 3-way connector though, and it ends up going to this pin here. This pin is 108. 108 is the MFI power supply ground. So it looks like that the ECU grounds this wire, I'm assuming, and then it clicks over the main relay. Again, I don't know for a fact. We're gonna have to go back and verify this. Alright, so that is the last bit of connectors there that we need. And the truth of the matter is we may not even need all of it, but that should be basically it right there. Here's the rest of the harness here. That's all going to go into the trash. So what we're going to have to do now is basically we're going to join these wires up to where they need to go. And then if all goes well, we'll have all functionality of the chassis itself. So all the lights should work, windshield wipers should work, all that other stuff, interior should power on, etc. And then once we can, and the starter of course, and once we can verify that all that is good and working, then at that point we can actually start wiring up the fuel tank. Okay, so here it is. I know it still looks, hopefully it doesn't look as overwhelming as it did earlier as I was cutting through the harness. So the way this is going to work, I have it relatively laid out. So on this end here, these 4 are coming from inside the car, and everything else on this side is coming from the engine bay side. So this is the fuse box connector, and then everything else is all dash related. So now at this point we can start sorting it all out, and what we're going to do is we're basically going to start we'll plug everything into their respective receptacle. And then there's a handful of wires that were interconnected before I cut them out. So the only ones that come to mind right off the bat is going to be the black white and the black yellow, and I think there was a red black as well. And we'll join those wires, and then we'll key it on, and hopefully everything works like it's supposed to.